every Friday there was always this guy that would post the link to YouTube, link from YouTube of Friday by Rebecca Black.
I really admire him leaning on that bit after all these years.
God, I'm so tired of bits.
Yeah, it's understandable. By the way, side note, I feel like Ice Spice is a Rebecca Black type. Like, I feel like secretly her career is promoted by rich parents.
The only thing I think about when I see Ice Spice, I think that bitch smells stanky.
I think she genuinely might have Down syndrome.
Oh. Yeah, or fetal alcohol syndrome.
Yeah.
Or something going on, yeah.
Actually, she probably does smell stanky due to all the weird diaper and shit references. If she is a fecal fetishist.
Oh my God, this is so I can finally
I'm hoping this is off to a good start. Continue.
No, this segues perfectly into the story that I wanted to tell you all day.
Please.
So before, I went to go pick up weed at the smoke shop, and all the smoke shops that sell weed are like run by Muslims, like Arabic dudes. Which
probably Yemenis, since Yemenis own all the bodegas.
Actually, that's true. But it was an Aki type guy.
Okay.
And which made this even funnier. So but he spoke like English. He was like one of the young dudes, like he's like kind of like hood. Mm-hmm. So I go in. There's a black guy. Well, I think he was no. It was a Dominican guy or Puerto Rican guy talking to the smoke shop guy. I heard the funniest thing. He goes, they were talking about some girl, and he was like, bro, she was hotter than a Dubai porter potty. And I heard that. I was like, I swear to God, a piece of my soul died. Like as soon as I heard that, because
yeah,
it kind of triggers. First of all, it's a double. What do you call it? Double entendre.
Double entendre.
Yeah. So that was funny. First of all. Second of all, I automatically got the image, and it put my mind down like a really dark like slide of thoughts. I was like, eventually, I just concluded that the hottest women in the world, like that's what that's the best that the hottest girls in the world can ever hope to do is to post like,
well, the thing that they can hope to do is probably to have a celebrity career of some kind or another, or rather than directly being a prostitute, marry a rich man.
Not anymore, because that shit's all like nepotism now. But even like
that's true with celebrity or with Hollywood. Yeah,
there are a lot of hot women.
That's
true.
So
there's already a sizable population, but the hottest of them,
yeah.
Their prestige for them is to post their hottest pics on Instagram, and they're gonna keep spamming their slutty pictures until hopefully they get that that DM, which is like some rich fucking oil sheik or some rich Arabic guy. He's like, oh, please come to Dubai. I'll buy you a Gucci bag or whatever.
Yeah,
and then they get driven out to like a mansion. They first walk in, it's like daylight. They just see a bunch of guys, like rich guys dressed nicely but way more hot girls. So they're like, oh, this is just your run of the mill, like Bunny Ranch or something.
Yeah.
Then nighttime comes, and then, like when everyone thinks like, oh, I guess this is when we're going to call it a night, whatever. But then the girls get sent to like their own rooms, and they're like, what the fuck? This is weird. And they get woken up at like in the middle of the night. And then they get taken to like a huge like chamber where all they see is buckets and sex toys.
Yeah.
And they're like, what's going on? Like,
I have a hard time believing at this point anyone, unless they're very stupid, which is a very real possibility, I guess, would be surprised by the way things play out.
Well, when I read like a while ago, like one of the interviews, or I think it was actually an actual video interview, they were saying like, oh yeah, usually there's like veterans, like people, like girls there who've done this before.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are like first timers. They didn't know what to expect. And it's not like they were recruited in groups. They were recruited like separately, like usually.
Yeah.
So they would get all nervous, and they wouldn't know fully what to expect. They're just like, oh, these guys just want to do a little poop play.
Yeah.
But what they don't realize is like it gets way out of hand. Like it goes from 0 to 100 when like some fat fucking billionaire German guy comes and shits in the bucket, picks up the bucket, goes up to the girl, gets a handful and starts like putting it in her mouth, like feeding it to her, and then just start chewing. Then and then the minute you start saying, "It's like honestly, I mean, this is cool if you guys want to do this, but it's not for me." They're gonna be like, "All right, well, we're in the middle of nowhere. You leave and find your own way home, and you could say goodbye to the money." And they're like, "Money? There's money involved. What money? It's like, yeah, it's like, that's the game. There's like 50,000.
I have a hard time believing they don't know there's money involved.
Well, they already got money at that point. They got like a $10,000 Louis bag or some shit. And they thought, oh, I get a $10,000 Louis bag and I get driven around. I get to stay in a nice place and I get to party with rich people. And that's all they're thinking.
Yeah.
But then they get taken to the situation where it's like, wait, you're telling me to strip naked around these other girls, and then you just
isn't this already well established as the dynamic in Dubai? Like, I have a hard time believing that many women are surprised by it at this point. They don't know what they're getting into.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying it's like I'm not even saying it's novel at this point. I'm just saying like it's crazy how like like it's not like the hottest girls can just hope to like, oh, someday I'm gonna find a nice man who will take care of me and I'm gonna have a great relationship sort of thing. It's like someday I'm gonna post the hottest picture on Instagram and then I'm gonna get messaged by a billionaire and he's gonna take me to his plane and we're gonna do some stuff and I'm gonna get money that way. Well, another appealing part is usually there's like this whole thing about white girls traveling. Like hot white girls love to travel. It's just what they love to do. Like, oh, I want to travel the world with my friends. I want to go to
side note, interesting how traveling has become a woman thing when traditionally it was a guy thing to do. More associated with men.
Maybe it's just more that when women travel, they do it more for leisure. That's why they're posting pictures on social media. Whereas when guys travel, it's usually for work.
Yeah, when like European colonists or European explorers were going around the world, it was a lot of desperation there.
Yeah, I mean, not even like
or desperation in the form of I have to leave my hometown because I murdered someone or I fucked the wrong bitch. I'm gonna jump on this pirate ship, get me the fuck out of here.
Take me to a lighthouse and I'll just work there for the season.
Yeah. until things blow over. Yeah,
pretty much. But so I don't know. I mean, that's kind of. It's not that I don't think it's not just that all girls on Instagram, like all hot girls on Instagram, want to do this. It's just they don't understand that that's like the pattern, that's the culture.
Yeah.
That they're indoctrinated into without realizing. Like when you just want to post slutted out pictures of when you want to be an Instagram model, when that's not really the job. You're not actually a model. Like those Instagram.
Yeah, I know it's soliciting.
They're hookers. Yeah, they're literally they're just hookers, but like top shelf like platinum pussy hookers.
Yeah.
Like you don't think about hitting them up unless you're gonna offer like anywhere between like 60,000 to like 150,000 just for the visit. Which is something that you don't do unless you're like obscenely rich. But of course, like those rich guys are going to treat you like shit if you're one of those girls because you're literally only seeing them because they're giving you money. So like, what do you expect them to fall in love with you? Like, no, it's on to the next after you. Like,
yeah.
And those Arab guys probably are all married. They'll probably have a few wives.
Oh, they definitely are. They're coming from an extremely misogynistic culture.
Yeah. And it's what is funny though. It's like it's like so on the nose. But what is interesting about that is that because like the whole idea of being able to defile a Western woman, something that's like typically like forbidden from anyone, for it to do, and there's the whole like novelty in that. But I think like what's interesting is that's already relatively done behind closed doors, supposedly. However, if that's what's known, if that's the stuff that comes out, like just imagine like Hollywood, and their shit, their shenanigans. Like it's probably on a whole nother. It's probably a little bit of.
I wonder if Hollywood's really degenerating because film is having so many issues.
Degenerating in what sense? Like morally or like culturally or
financially? If they just, okay. I mean, it's still making money, but if they're not making as much money as they used to, maybe things are just going to get chintzier in Tinseltown.
I hope so. That'll be sick.
Yeah.
I hope movie people. I hope the movie industry gets hit with like. I hope Hollywood gets like gutted, a little bit. Actually, a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean that seems inevitable, just given how things are going. Actresses have gotten less attractive since Harvey Weinstein got.
Yeah. I mean, but those are the only real victims, right? The actual workers of Hollywood. I mean, some of them were rich. Yeah. Well, a lot of them were fucking rich. Yeah. But most of them are not.
I feel like I'm a victim of Hollywood because of how much it's disappointed me.
It's a good point. But like when we say like, oh, Hollywood's suffering, what we mean is the workers are suffering. Like the billionaires who work for fucking Sony, who fucking like, you know, like the execs who work for who own pretty much like shares of like Miramax or Lionsgate or those like huge fucking production companies. Those guys are fine. Those guys are raking in money hand over fist. You know, like probably even more.
Not as much. Nah, probably less now.
Are you kidding me?
Compared to when if ticket sales are down, they're making less money.
Yeah, but they don't really rely on ticket sales anymore.
Yeah, that's true. There might be a bunch of money laundering things going on in all these large productions anyway.
Or it's like what they do is it's like these mega corps, these mega fucking production companies.
Yeah.
They have like, see, here's their philosophy. This, I know I'm kind of like projecting the music model of this, like, you know, when it comes to huge gigantic music production companies, like this is what they do, like record companies. Let's say you're a signed artist. Let's say you ask like, oh, I need like $30,000 to produce this album in X amount of time. That's a contract. They give you that money. You produce this album, but it's like shit and it makes nothing. And it's basically, for this company, it's like $30,000 that they just like burned pretty much because you didn't do shit with it. Maybe you didn't even make an album. Maybe you just flushed it down the toilet in drugs and broke contract, you know?
Well, usually, okay, fair enough.
No, wait, I'm not done.
Go ahead.
But like, so they do that, right? There's that case. And like, let's say they do this with like 10 different artists and 9 out of 10 of them all flush. They all bust, you know, they all fucking, so that's like what, $300,000 almost like down the drain. But that one guy broke out, or that one performer, that one bitch fucking broke out, and she came out like ahead, like 10 million in revenue on ticket sales and albums and all and merch and all this shit. That's worth the other investments. They don't give a fuck if like 9 out of 10 of them fail, as long as the 1 out of 10 literally pays off everything
else. Yeah, sure.
And they could afford to do that, so they do that. Now movies, I think, work like that, like, you know,
within an individual studio. However, over the course of our lifetime, studios have been less inclined to use that business model. That's why you have fewer mid-budget movies.
Yeah, but you see all this
tentpole movie fixation means putting more money into a limited number of movies and hoping they work out.
Yeah, now it's like
you don't have mid-budget movies anymore. You don't have a lot of different risks on low-budget movies. This is very cliche and very standard, but a lot of money in the, you know, MCU model was funneled into these big event movies. And those can't afford to lose money most of the time.
Well, yeah, I guess it's more complicated than music because movies are
more stupid than music, perhaps.
Movies are more expensive to produce than music. That's one. 2, it takes more manpower to produce an album than a feature-length film. I mean, sorry, it takes more
to produce a movie than an album.
Than an album, yeah.
Sure. Hollywood used to work the way you're describing. It used to be like that. Well into the 80s.
Yeah.
And then they stopped due to, I don't know, a variety of reasons, economic reasons.
Actually, no. Marvel, because the MCU did start as like a risky thing. Because no one had faith.
It started as, it still was a big blockbuster.
No, the first MCU movie was like
Iron Man.
No, it was the Hulk.
The Incredible Hulk was the second one after. It was Iron Man, then the Incredible Hulk.
I thought
there's an original adaptation of the Hulk that came out in like 2003 by Ang Lee, and that was a flop.
Yo, the Ed Norton one was a sequel.
Yeah, it was a loose sequel. That was released after Iron Man. Iron Man came out, which was people were uncertain of how it was going to do, but it was still like 100 million. Maybe it was a little bit less. Let's say Iron
Dick.
But The Incredible Hulk was the second MCU film.
Oh, interesting.
Because we're both Googling
the Hulk.
now.
The Hulk came out in 2003.
That's totally unrelated to the MCU.
Really?
Yes. It's a Marvel character, but that's unrelated to Iron Man.
Okay, so no, so the 2008 movie is a sequel to the 2003 movie.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
Second film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And technically it made money, but it is Iron Man 2000. I mean, they were coming out in the same year, May 2008. It has a budget of $130 million, and it made $600 million. Those came gigantic box office returns.
That's a huge return on 130 mil. That's insane. It's like 5xing your money.
It is preserved by the National Film Registry as culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Which is true. The first Iron Man is a great movie.
Yeah, I'd say so. I like that Hulk movie a lot, though, too.
I never saw The Incredible Hulk, but I've heard it's better. I've heard
Edward Norton
defenders of it. Yeah,
Edward Norton was just really he was pretty snappy in the role.
That makes sense.
I liked
was
him
replaced by Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, I don't like Mark. I'd rather have Ed Norton than Mark Ruffalo, hands down.
Yeah. That was, but still, you had effectively 10 years of cultural dominance by MCU.
I was a fan
in the sense that I've seen most of them.
Well, the thing is like I wasn't never really a fan of the MCU as much as I was a fan of the comics. Mm-hmm. But it's like I never say that because it's like it's such a moot point because it was like the perfect timing for me to start getting into. When I first got into the comics, I didn't know the MCU was going to be such a huge deal. When I first read the comics, I just read the comics because they were there, and I got into it on like the Silver Age, like.
What reprints or
like the paperback reprints, like the collections,
graphic novels, the trade paperback, trade paperbacks of Silver Age,
and then that moved on to like the more modern stuff, know.
Did your father have any experience with it?
My father, no, but one of my uncles did. He was like a really huge comic.
My dad read I used to go see all those movies with my dad, and it was very charming to see how happy or excited he was at first.
That shit was great at first, man.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
For my dad, who read all of these in the 60s and was a big fan, it was going to see MCU films or many movies with my dad ended up becoming like I was the adult and he was the child. It was reversing the dynamic of in the 90s when he would take me to see blockbusters.
Yeah. I mean, I like the.
So I have a personal connection through my dad with it, even though he hasn't read a comic book since, I don't know, 68 or 69 or something.
Yeah, I mean that's like a bittersweet thing, because like once you get into the comics first, you realize how in depth all the lore is, and these superheroes weren't just like these cheesy, corny superheroes that you thought they were as a kid. Like you realize, oh, these are actually like really flawed characters, with their own like hang-ups and their own hopes and dreams and their own insecurities and all that shit. And that's what made it so alluring to me as a person. I was like, what person wouldn't be into because that's like the double take, because on the surface all you see is the glossy costumes and the they fight crime, great, but you never assume that there's like grittiness under all that until like you actually give it the time to like find it. So I like that, and it was really complex shit, especially with like crossover stories between like different franchises. And what's nuts is like the whole arcs like Civil War, so it's bittersweet because you want to see a good film adaptation of it, like a quality one, but the problem is it's never going to live like the gravity of everything, like the emotional depth and all that shit. It's never going to quite live up to like comic books because the comic books are always going to be like a more
Plus the original medium, it was willing to embrace the medium far more.
Yeah. And it's
actually kind of curious how comic book movies in general, not just the MCU, but also obviously like the various Batman adaptations, really lean away from being comic booky. They reduce a lot of the weirdness or the wackiness of the setting or of the mechanism.
Yeah, and then you have exceptions to that, like Deadpool.
Even then, it's still, there's something visually about comic books in its original medium. Sometimes the experimentality, sometimes just how like panels on a page are arrayed, that rarely was tapped into by comic book movies during this 20-year dominance.
Yeah, I mean, then you'd have movies like Kick-Ass.
Let's see. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1 came out in what, 2002?
Around that time.
Around that time. So 20 years of comic book movies dominating cinema. And now they seem to be mostly dead. I mean, occasionally one will come out and will be financially successful, like, what is it? The Batman by Matt Reeves? I forget. My memory is far worse than it used to be. But it's an era that has thoroughly ended, perhaps with Hollywood itself.
Yeah, I mean, thank God for that.
Comic book movies never lived up to the promise of comic books.
No, of course not. It can't. Well, it's also unfair because the span of a movie, like the events that the movies trying to portray, that the movies do try to portray, are like so
shorter.
No, they were spread like the way to consume it originally in its original form. It was always released issue by issue, so it took a lot longer. So there was a lot more anticipation and build up between like major events and like major arcs, and you can't replicate that or condense all of that into like 2.5 hours to 3 hours. You know, it's never gonna work. I mean, Lord of the Rings somehow managed to do it, but that's because it wasn't a comic book. It was just a novel, you know? Like,
a novel, I think there was a particular care put into its adaptation to great effect. I think that the comic book movies were very rarely as colorful or larger than life as the comic books themselves. This is much commented upon. They feel a lot flatter in movie form.
Of course, yeah, because there's some things you can't...
There's a bunch of things you could have, but they were too conservative in how they made them, is what I'm trying to get at. I find the MCU in particular way too conservative visually, thematically. It's still hung on to a sci-fi fixture for far too long in the early films.
Well, I mean, like, all right, so an example, like a practical example of this would be where, let's say there's an aspect of a character's origin story where there was like two important people in their life that influenced them in very
and it gets condensed
into one person, you know, like shit like that. That's fucked up. You're right. That does. I
think
see
just
that,
visually, you could have made far more surreal or far more larger than life comic book movies. You could have had Into the Spider-Verse. I haven't seen the sequel. Is one of my favorite comic book movies. Because visually, because it's animated, it captures the feeling of a comic book far more.
And it embraced its identity as a comic book franchise.
MCU and also any Batman movie, which are the most successful franchises, or X-Men when Fox was doing those, they all were trying to run away from being a comic, even well after embracing it.
No, I think what Enter the Spider-Verse did, that still tapped into a comic book tradition.
No, it did. It did better than any of the others because it had
No. I mean, like,
shot.
Aside from movies aside, I mean, just in the realm of comic books, it's always been a long-standing tradition to try to push the barriers of that medium. Like, Deadpool is a great example of this. If you actually read a Deadpool comic book, you'll notice there's elements all the time of Deadpool literally trying to like break the fourth wall, talking to you, the reader. I mean, literally addressing you as a reader reading a comic book, you know, like shit like that. It's they try to break the boundaries, and they even mess around with the structure of comics, like where if you look at like, you know, there's a standard narrative dialogue box compared to the dialogue bubbles, like you know all standard comics, right? But if you look at the yellow dialogue boxes or in a fucking panel of a Deadpool comic, that's his own consciousness because he's fucking insane. You know, that's his like his one of his separate personalities because he's fucking crazy.
The way you're able to write it layers it far more thoroughly.
Wait, what?
The way you're able to write it, the nature of the medium of comics,
exactly.
Made it far more metatextual, far denser.
Yeah, it gives you the same. You see, it kind of gives you the same appeal of like Dungeons and Dragons, right? You're able to do shit like that in Dungeons and Dragons. Same thing in like it's. So I think like the Spider-Verse movies, they were just fucking they were tapping into a tradition that already existed in like comic book production. There were always like specific franchises that always tried to push the boundaries of like how we conceptualize comic books and how we interact and engage with comic books. There's also Gwenpool. That's also another series that really like fucks around and goes like really, I guess it's just being meta, you know, in your medium. Like comic books try to go meta, so why wouldn't a comic book movie try to go meta? You know, it's like it's a thing. You know,
and they didn't for the most part.
And there's plenty of times when like regular events in comic books are extremely meta. Like DC Marvel crossovers happened where like the Great Tribunal and whatever, like basically the gods of each like DC and Marvel respective one made a bet. It's like, oh, my champions against your champions and shit like that. Like you could do that because it's all like, you know, creative output. So that's just if like the creators if you could get them to work together enough, like, you know, long enough to do it. But yeah, I think Spider-Verse was a great movie. I'm with you there. It's like it's probably like it might be objectively the best Spider-Man movies, you know, and I think it's what they did. I mean, it's very novel for a movie. I agree, but I'm pretty sure like that was the origin of their shtick. Like what that whole interdimensional multiverse thing of being self-referential and all that stuff. Like, yeah, I think that's cool like that. But I also specifically recall comic books doing that like for a long time, which is why another reason why I loved comic books. It's like comic book creators love to fuck around like that.
And yeah. It is a very pleasant, delightful element of the medium.
Yeah.
That it is lacking from the adaptation.
Hells yeah. I mean, Deadpool movies try to capture that. You know, they tried to capture, but that's just...
It's not as layered?
No, I mean, they instead of like, you know, because it goes back to what I said before, how it's just being meta with your medium. You know, whether you make video games, whether you make comics, whether you make movies, to be meta within your story's narrative is like there's always a way to do it. Like you know, you can make a part in a video game where it's like in Metal Gear Solid, it's like the boss, one of the bosses like looks at the player through the screen, is like, you want to put the controller down, you know?
Yeah, Psycho Mantis. Yeah. They do that repeatedly in Metal Gear Solid, but yes.
Or there's like I think there's been a couple of other examples that I just can't think of right now, but I'm sure books have done that too.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm sure there's books that have like
books get very much into meta textual things
exactly.
and very into meta narratives, far more than comic books.
100%.
Way more than movies.
Yep.
To the point of being
I love it when
time.
Scary books get meta. That's scary, you know?
Yeah.
You're like, oh no, they're talking about me now. Like they're talking to me.
This is much of 20th and indeed even 19th century literature.
Yeah. So I think it's really just going meta with your medium. That's what I would refer to it as, which is always fun to do. You know, every creative should fuck around with that. Music too.
It feels oftentimes, I wouldn't say oppressive or draining, all encompassing. The meta fixation is overly common to me in all different mediums now.
I think it's the being meta like loses its novelty when
I need to get water. Come on.
All right. I'll wait until you show up with your H2O, with your water. Oh, he's also getting the ice. I could hear him fucking with the ice tray. Just getting some ice, getting some water. Always the dude who walks off with the mic in the middle of the set, man. I guess I do that too, though, in like video conference sets.
Sorry, I was afflicted with a great thirst.
Let me get some of that water.
Please. And as a result, I had to grab water. I don't care if you make a cut or not within the show, but I desperately need it. I know you don't.
I don't have to cut that out. I don't think, because I was talking. But all right. So as I was saying before,
yes,
the meta, like being meta with your medium, works insofar as how novel your medium is. For example, there was a time. What?
Go on.
There was a time when books were like the most stimulating medium of entertainment in existence. You know,
yes,
Like there was nothing else more crazier than books out there right now. But then eventually it was there was also what?
Sorry.
No, then there was also graphic novels. Then graphic novels came out, and they became the most stimulating form of entertainment. And then afterwards, then you had film, I guess. But yeah, I just think like let's say movies are the biggest thing right now, and then you make movies that are meta. You make movies where like there's a scene where the characters look at you, the audience, and then address you directly and say you should be doing this, or look under your seat, you'll find this, and then they look under and they find it. They're like, what the fuck? They do that. So while video games don't exist, that'll be like amazing. You'll be like, what the fuck? But then video games come out, and if movies still tried to do that, you'll be like, oh yeah, I know what they did.
Yeah, they did all these gimmicks in the 10s, the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s.
Yeah. So right now, the most stimulating medium of entertainment is video games, and yeah. What's
video games take up a tremendous amount of the population's time, especially males.
Not anymore. Video games used to be the most stimulating form of entertainment. Now it's social media.
Yes, I agree with that. Take.
Social media is definitely the next form, the most popular form of entertainment.
Yeah, I spend a tremendous amount of time on social media, as do most people.
Because the thing is, like, it's definitely a digital thing. It's something that's enabled by technology, and it is a form of entertainment because people are actively entertained by it while they consume.
I remember being a boy and all my interest in video games flooded away, and I got way more interested in social media, by which I mean message boards.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is it kind of like fuses the capabilities of new information technology with the openness and imagination of like really old school forms of gaming, like Dungeons and Dragons. Where it was a lot of it's all cerebral. It was all mental. It was you didn't see like crazy graphics on a screen with your friends. What you did is you saw just pen and paper, like written shit, and you just like imagined it as the dungeon master would narrate it really well. And so you would just kind of like picture it all in your head. It's kind of the same thing now. It's like the most fun part about being able to just like type words to and from between your friends, like the most exciting is you could do anything. You could tell stories, you could tell jokes, you could tell insults, you could tell personal things.
It's interesting that there's very little documentation upon this common millennial experience.
Well, we're doing it now. This is what we're doing.
That's true.
That's exactly what we're doing right now.
But I don't see fictional narrative. I mean, it's very difficult to depict. A novel would do it better, but about, I don't know, the days of posting online in the mid-aughts. It'd be nice to have a fictionalized depiction of it.
Yeah, or because nobody knows what it's really doing. They think of it as, they don't know if it's a tool, if it's a form of entertainment, if it's definitely like the next medium of, there's like the content creators, which are the game designers. And then there's the content consumers, which are the game players. And then there's the people who do both. They create content and they consume it. And those are the game developers / gamers, which is, they'll have the greatest like insight and foothold and abilities when it comes to like engaging with all the shit out there. So it's like, it's the next evolution after like books, after graphic novels, after movies and shows, after video games. It's social media. It's the people game now.
Yeah, I spend a tremendous the majority of my life has been spent on those kind of things.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, this is my personal opinion. The reason why these things are so valuable and so like pivotal in human development, it's because these things like books, comics, movies, video games, and social media, what these things do, it allows us to engage in the state of play. And that's so important because, it's human, like the state of play is all about human exploration. And the reason why these mediums are so important and powerful within the realm of human exploration is, just as an example, like with video games, let's just say realistically, like not everybody in the world can be a cowboy or a space marine or a pirate or an assassin or a samurai or whatever. Like in real life, we need people to work shitty jobs like a fucking mechanic or a janitor or a plumber or, you know, a secretary. So knowing this, at least like through video games and movies and all these mediums and even social media and like storytelling, like we get to have a means of being able to like explore pieces of ourselves that we would never be able to without that. Like without video games, how would I know how I would act as a wizard in like some mystical land, or as an astronaut, or as a space marine? Like how would I know the things I would do unless I had a chance to actually engage with something, you know, that gives me a narrative, to give me like a directive, and to see how I would go about handling that. And yeah, you do that through video games. And even, you know, like, but even with video games, I mean, I think the core, like, thing that connects, like, social media, video games, you could even put in music, you could even put in all these things. I think the real potent element, the most sacred, divine, the divine creative element is the aspect of storytelling.
Yes,
that is the important thing, storytelling. Now, funny thing about storytelling is you look at like all the most prolific and iconic stories throughout human history, they all kind of follow the same pattern. You know, we all know it as like the hero's journey, the story circle, or whatever.
Yeah, Joseph Campbell.
Yeah, and I think that's like the core, the most quintessential element within all these with tapping into the state of play. That's really, those two things go hand in hand, I think, like storytelling and play.
Yes.
You're either like weaving a story or you're living out a story, you know?
There's play in the self-narrative of your life. Perhaps it makes drudgery within your life more tolerable.
Well,
among other things.
I mean,
it directs, it makes meaning, it puts a framework on your life experience.
Yeah, I mean, drudgery is not something that should be made tolerable. I think it's just something you kind of accept as something you have to do.
Yeah.
The tricky part, the hard part is like figuring out which of your drudgery is necessary and which of it is completely unnecessary and completely self-imposed. Like,
yeah,
something you should just stop doing. You know, I know there must be dudes out there who like as a chore, like they feel like they wake up and they like it's a chore for them. It's like, oh, I guess I gotta go to my desk. Like open up my 10 porn tabs, pick the right video, and it's gonna take forever. Like these dudes like look at, like, you know, it's like they're that fucked up where it's like they're on like multiple dimensions of fucked up at that point. You know, it's like, so I don't know, like that's kind of like the self-imposed drudgery that'll fuck you up way worse than like regular normal drudgery, you know?
Yes.
Like it's drudgery to stay in shape. It's drudgery to keep your home like relatively livable,
clean. It's drudgery to keep up with creative practices, to keep up with work, with things you actually have to do, with your health.
Yeah, but you know, so it's like it's really your, like how much of your drudgery is aligned with your raison d'etre? I don't know how you pronounce it.
I think that's relative. I think that's close for an English speaker. That's how I pronounce it.
Yeah.
If you talk to a French speaker, they'll chastise you.
Like raison d'etre or some
yeah,
shit.
Exactly. Yeah, every single French person loves correcting Anglos on their pronunciation of French words.
It's merci.
Someone who's ex of mine grew up in Paris, so she, even though she was always saying, I'm not French, she would just constantly be doing the French thing of correcting any single pronunciation of mine.
That's just how French teachers are too, I think.
Yeah. It's something, it's like a mimetic rider onto the French language.
Yeah.
The French language requires you be pretentious about it.
And they're very chauvinistic too as a country and a people. Yeah, that's fine. They have some hot chicks, I guess, so that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, regardless of being hot or not, I was just thinking about before how I was saying, like, I would never call anyone ugly.
Yes.
I would call them fat, maybe. I would call them retarded, definitely. But I would never
call them ugly.
Because it feels like, first of all, it feels kind of stupid. For me, and it feels disingenuous. Like, it feels like I don't actually mean it. Like, I really don't think anyone's like actually ugly, you know, like objectively ugly. I think there's always gonna be something charming about like you, no matter what you look like, honestly. Like, but what I do think is people can be fat, and I do think people can be retarded. That feels genuine to me, you know, like when I say that, because like it's like, yeah, that is what you are. But ugly, it's like, even if you are those things, I don't think that'll make you ugly ever, you know? People could be nasty, sure, but that's like a different thing.
I think there's a bunch of ugly people in the world, and I've called many people ugly. Which is because I'm very antisocial in that respect.
I don't think I've ever called anyone. I mean, I've done plenty of antisocial things. Like,
yeah,
like very antisocial things. Like fucking graffiti is inherently antisocial.
Yeah, it is. I appreciate you, by the way, mentioning the distinction between antisocial and asocial. Often when someone says antisocial, they're referring to just cloistering themselves away, but that's really asocial behavior. Antisocial behavior is when you're directly attacking the fabric of society.
Yeah, like graffiti, shoplifting, arson. Yeah.
Being rude.
Yeah.
I haven't done those things, but I have been very, very rude to many different people.
Yeah, because I was into punk, you know?
Yeah.
I was into punk culture and punk music. And there's going to be like, I swear to God, there's going to be like so many fucking old people that are like, that's not what punk is about, man. First of all, if you're old and you're alive, you're a fucking poser. You're not actually punk. Real punks die, all right? Like real punks. You know?
Yeah.
This is why, I mean, like a lot of people hate hearing this, and I say it half jokingly, but I'm probably right about this when I say like punk rock was invented by the FBI as a kind of genetic shredder designed to filter out people who would not be able to function in hypercapitalism. It basically shuffles people with rebellious dispositions, outsiders, ugly people into highly self-destructive patterns that'll get you killed and incarcerated or sterile. You know, like all of the above. You know, like so. I think punk is cool. I love punk personally. I think it's cool. But, you know, I think it's a little fishy. You know, I think it's a little, there's something a little silly going on with that whole inception of the culture and the actual culture. And yeah, I don't identify as a punk, but I love like being a tourist of punk culture. I love like listening to the music. I love like watching like actual punks' lives. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do give a shit. I wish they would stop doing some of the shit they did. They don't listen, so I stopped trying a long time ago to like tell them to stop. At that point, all you can do is just kind of it's like the War Boys, you know, who are like.
And I haven't seen Furiosa yet, but within Mad Max, Fury Road and Furiosa,
yeah, they're just like witness me.
Yeah,
it's kind of I see it like that. It's like I got like as a thing of honor. It's like, I will witness you.
Yes.
Mr. Punk, while you set yourself, you might as well.
This connects to social media, where the overarching message is "witness me."
Yeah, you're right. Like, and you see dudes like spiritually and metaphorically dousing themselves in gasoline and literally lighting the Zippo.
Yeah,
you know.
Boy, the act that shocked the consciousness of a nation. The conscience of a nation.
Nobody gave a fuck about.
Yeah, no one's talking about Aaron Bushnell.
Nobody gave a fuck about it. It was so retarded when like people tried to like they were pushing that so hard. I was like, yo, this isn't what you get.
This is a silly thing. He was just doing a TikTok clone of that Vietnamese monk, Thac Quan Duc or whatever.
Yeah.
I probably didn't get his name exactly correct, but something close to that. If you search those syllables, you'll find it.
He was definitely on 4chan.
Sorry about my long break. Anyway,
no, it's all good. You peed a lot. I was listening.
Ah, good. I'm glad. I appreciate it. How did you find my urine stream's audio quality?
It wasn't that loud. I couldn't really hear the texture of the stream, but
hopefully people will be able to hear the texture of this stream.
No. It's I'm just gonna I stayed silent so because it's easy to look at the waveform, like the part where it's just a straight line. I'm like, all right, that's the chop part, you know.
Yeah,
it's easy to spot when it's like elongated like that. That's what I usually do when I edit.
Yeah, I appreciate you editing and producing.
I mean, shit. Yeah, so I'm getting a little bit more traction these days on the I'm getting a little bit more likes in the podcast these days.
Yeah, probably just keep putting things out. It helps.
Also, it's also having like varied guests. You know, I didn't really realize this would be the result. It's just I just looked at it as like, oh, this is an excuse to talk to like this person I've kind of always wanted to talk to online for a while. And it turns out like, you know, I realized like when you do stuff with them, like their following is gonna like look at it too, and they're gonna look at your stuff too, and it's like, oh, okay, I forgot that's a thing, you know?
Yeah, which
is cool. You know, it's great. I love it. You know, I think that's amazing, and I'm thankful for the newcomers that have come recently. I hope I'm glad you didn't come in on early Terrorisk, because
I came on early Terrorisk a bunch, didn't I?
No, not you. I mean the new subscribers.
Listeners, yes.
The new listeners. I'm glad the new listeners.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, weren't like really into the old Terrorisk, because that, first of all, that was unsustainable. Like it's that kind of stuff was just too. Yeah, watch. Now that I said, like, they're gonna go back to like the original episodes and go like,
well, what would you care? Yeah, there's more views to it.
Yeah. I mean, I like the new stuff that I've been, because when I first started, I was definitely a lot different as a person. That was before I got into some of the stuff I'm into now. Definitely think a lot more differently than back then. I think back then I was a lot angrier. I was definitely
Makes sense.
I was definitely
You're
lot
younger
more,
too.
I mean, the podcast has only been around since like 2022, like late 2022.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. 2 years, yeah.
Not even really.
So it was more of a metaphysical change than a biological one.
Yeah. I mean, a lot's happened, but that could change a person, like when you go through like a lot of shifts, in like in a short span of time.
Yeah.
But, I think after all said and done, looking back, I think I ended up in a pretty good spot,
Yeah.
Pretty good place. I did a lot. I accomplished like some things that I didn't think I would ever accomplish. Like that sword tournament was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
This podcast, keeping it going, that I kind of always known I was gonna do, because like that's just how I am. Like when I start something that doesn't really have like a foreseeable end, I will fucking stick with it. Like
Yes.
because I don't look at it doing anything any other way. I'm like, maybe it's just the way I was taught without realizing, but yeah, I'm like, if you're gonna do something, then you gotta fucking like keep doing it. You can't stop. Like maybe it's an Asian thing. Maybe Asians are better at keeping up with like routine.
I think that's true. It probably is related to Asians being vulnerable to gambling addictions and also the most tedious video games possible.
Yeah, because with Asians, it's like, I think it's really what Asians are kind of better at is the ego death thing.
Yes, that makes sense.
I mean, not even like a profound like spiritual awakening, like just a straight up like I'm not here for a bit, and it's just me becoming one with the process of like making these dumplings, or like pulling this pachinko machine or whatever.
How do you feel about addictive personality traits? Do you feel like you're particularly vulnerable as an Asian?
Never. If I did have like a very addictive personality,
with say gambling, for instance,
even gambling.
Nope. Yeah, I know. I was gonna say you seem very restrained,
dude. I play the stocks. Like if I was really a gambling addict, I would have run myself broke a long.
I know you would have. That's true.
No, and if I did have an addictive personality, I've done like almost every drug except for like the really stupid. Even if I did the really stupid ones, I don't think I would get hooked.
Yeah, you wouldn't. I get the feeling you wouldn't either. But like stereotypes of like Chinese with opium, or Koreans with video games, or pachinko machines in Japan.
Yeah, I don't think I've.
Is it something biologically ingrained with Asians?
The closest thing that I could think of being addicted to is just the big three: weed, alcohol, and
weed
nicotine.
For sure.
Weed, alcohol, and nicotine.
Yeah.
That's those. I mean, but I'm like, I don't feel any type of way about that, because first of all, I don't ever like. It's not like I do these things so much because I crave it so much. I do these things so much because everyone I know does these things so much. But I don't know. What I don't know is like, what if everyone I knew stopped doing it and it was just me doing it, and I just decided to stop doing all these things? Would I get the shakes? Would I go into like crazy withdrawal,
chemical withdrawal,
or would I just treat it as everything else in my life, like with all the drugs I've done, and with like,
when you feel physiological withdrawal effects, you just treat it like a sword tournament,
like a sword nut. Yeah,
like you see it as something to resist. You could quit smoking if you wanted to right now. You just see it as a challenge.
I guess so.
I don't know if this is true. I'm asking this a question.
I mean, well, it's actually, you know what's actually really interesting, though. I guess the one thing I've ever felt truly threatened about habitually, enough so to make me actually make a thing about quitting it, was porn.
Yeah, I know, but that's connected with your no-fap, your semen retention.
That was the one thing where I truly felt as a man, like I felt
you felt deep addiction, you felt shame.
Not even a deep addiction, because I knew plenty of people who were like way worse than me. But even then, I still felt like, wait, why am I doing this though? Like this is not right. Like this felt alien to me. That's why I like it's almost like I intuitively knew like this is the one messed up thing you cannot be doing. And I was like, why? And then I put a lot of thought into it. I even did research on it. I was like, this is actually really fucked up shit. This is something I have to stop. Like this is gonna really damage me on a spiritual level, on a physical level, on a mental level. Like it was damaging me. It was destroying me. Yeah. And it's not and also what made it like such a judicial thing for me was like when I look around to my fellow men, and I was like, it's not just me, it's all of us, and it's fucking people up like really bad. And it's not just fucking up men, it's fucking up everyone, like children,
children,
everyone.
It's having huge negative social consequences.
And this is why I feel very passionately about like talking shit about using porn. I'm like, no, I don't think it's good for you. I don't fucking think it's good for you. Even if I did it, I don't think it's good for you. Even if other people did it, I don't care who does it, I still don't think it's good for you. It's like me saying like, oh, I think like drinking booze is good for you. It's clearly not fucking good for you. And I don't think we should, but I think porn is especially bad because it's so socially like promoted, you know?
Yeah, promoted. A lot of things in culture are pornified, but at the same time, they're not.
Whereas alcohol, there's plenty of adverts that say, don't drink and drive, don't drink. Whereas we should get more adverts that say, don't use porn, you know?
Both of these are also very onanistic, very masturbatory activities. You know, alcohol, if you're engaging in it socially, I'm good, thank you. It is still something that is like wasting time doing something that's a self-pleasuring activity.
But I didn't realize like, because I think what hit me, because I've done plenty of things that were self-damaging, like alcohol is self-damaging, cocaine, all that shit, like all this.
A lot of it is in time involved if you're not dealing with other people. Porn by nature is like a solitary, it's a solitary activity. Whereas sex or relationship is,
and even drinking
is inherently communal.
It's external. It's externalized violence almost. But porn is a complete.
Or even playing a video game isn't as much so, even though it takes up a lot of time. If you're playing it with other people or talking about it with other people, which you don't talk about the porn you've watched with other people, but you will talk about the video game.
Well, video games are stimulating enough intellectually. It's like challenging.
But also you can socially engage with other people. How many conversations have you had over video games? I've had many.
Well, I think video games challenge you socially, mentally.
How many conversations have you had about a pornography you watched or reviewed?
Oh, more than I care to admit, to be honest.
That's fair, but it's far less than video games or movies or books.
Definitely, gladly,
gladly. It would be a very that makes it a more solitary, inwardly focused, narcissistic consumption than all these other forms of consumption.
Well, the way I put it was like, I look at it before, it's like there's like different, it's a spectrum, a ratio of how much of what your bad habit is externally damaging and how much of it is internally damaging. And I think porn is way
internally. Alcohol, you get too drunk, you're drunk driving, you crash into a family, you kill a family, you go to jail for life. But like, that's very externally damaging.
But porn, you become depressed and miserable for life.
Yeah.
Whether you go to jail or not, you still want to kill yourself.
It deters you from finding a relationship too.
It deters you from doing anything like worthwhile. Yeah. Creative. You lose a lot of confidence in yourself without realizing when you jack off to porn. Like people don't get it. Like I didn't get it. I didn't see this until I stopped using porn. I was like, dude, this is fucked up. You know, like just being without it for like even like a month was like enough to be like, wow, this is actually really fucked up. How like crazy. And I'll never like condemn people for like, you know.
Yeah, but you're right. There's something to it. There's something too fast from all these things, from drugs you use, alcohol, pornography, video games, eating. It's something to various forms of spiritual fasting.
It's just, I know this much. Spirituality is like a very open target for a lot of mocking, which is why my approach to it is admittedly like very aggressive. It's like very like, yeah, I know how this is gonna sound, but first of all, like, just so you know, I know how retarded you are. Like, I need you to know this before I present this information to you, before I present this perspective to you. I want you to know that I know exactly what the fuck you're probably up to right now. Because I was just up to that like a minute ago. But like, I'm actually willing to put myself on the line and like engage with this earnestly, sincerely, like with like absolute like commitment. And to show you and to be an example, to see what happens, and just to be self-evident, like you shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
I'm not just telling people not to do this. I'm going to stop doing this first, and then like just to be like, dude, we see, like, we shouldn't do this. Like,
yeah.
Which there's all this, like, you could wax a lot of poetic about like, oh, that's how the chosen ones are, and to me it's just a coincidence. It's like it's a happy coincidence. It's serendipitous. It's like, well, that's good. It's good that what I want to do happens to be aligned with the greater good, apparently, of God and the will of God or whatever. But
yes,
I mean, it feels good. It feels like you're on the right path. But someone was sorry.
That's okay.
Someone was just pointing out, they made this post about how words, if you've ever heard a sentence, you're already a victim of brainwashing. Like,
that's true.
If you've ever heard words, yeah, it is true.
The effect of linguistics.
Abso-fucking-lutely. Yeah, I agree. I do think if you've ever heard words before, you've probably been brainwashed. I mean, you just look at a bunch of sigils and the combination of like a bunch of like symbols and to make like sounds to codify your entire perspective of reality. Like, are you kidding me? Like, but then again, I don't know. If it comes from a multilingual person, that's another aspect of it. Like, but that's just the more broader, like, it's like brainwashing alt version.
Yes.
Like Linux or something compared to Windows.
A different framework, both mimetic, linguistically, programming you have experienced or engaged in.
Yep. I mean, you could try to like revert to I mean, it's funny. People talk about stuff like pure thoughts, like without words. I mean, to me, it's not fucking thoughts. Then what you're talking about is intuition. What you're talking about isn't like something you have to think about. It's something you just know. It's something like you intuitively are aware of, have baked in you. Did you hear that? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, I did. Vaguely. Baked into you.
Oh god, I was fuck. I just said.
Okay, yes, I did.
No. Oh yeah. So what was it? People were talking about pure thoughts without words. What the fuck are pure thoughts without words? And they're emotions.
Yeah,
that's what they are. They're feelings. Which is funny. It's like you got to be like an autistic bird brain to say like talk about like what are thoughts without words, bro? That's just your intuition. Those are that's your gut instinct, your feelings, your emotions.
Yes.
Yeah, man. So yeah, that's
pure thoughts, emotions.
What?
Pure thoughts, emotions.
Is that what pure thoughts are? Emotions to you? Like, what are thoughts without words?
You can think about images. You can think about colors, sensations. We're inclined to think of it in word tones, but I suspect other people in different times and places in the world did not.
Yeah, I also think a lot in terms of actions.
Yeah.
As opposed to like thinking about like the narrative of Chris is going to pick up this glass. It's like I'll think about the sensations of my body mechanics, like how
or you do it without thinking. When I pick up this glass, I'm not thinking about every single muscle motion.
No, when I say think about it, I don't mean not like thinking about the actual words, but I'm just saying like I'll anticipate, that's the word.
Yeah.
I'll anticipate the feeling of condensation on my skin.
Yeah.
And like all that stuff. And like watered down scotch passing through while the ice clanks as I, these are all sensations.
Yeah.
And to me, the sensations trigger a lot of like, I guess, nostalgic memories.
Yes.
A lot of imagery. Not even my own memories. It could be from like movies or like scenes from other people's memories. You know what I mean?
I do.
And also there's music,
Yeah.
It's not really thinking in words. Like I'll think in melodies. I'll think in like tunes.
Yeah.
Because, I make music, and sometimes you just think of tunes.
Think of music straightforwardly. Maybe if you're going to articulate, you talk or you think about notes and the like, or beats, but you don't think about it as if you were writing a journal entry about it.
Yeah. I'll think of patterns.
Yes.
Patterns is something I could think of. Like instead of words, I'll think of something in patterns. That's why I think I'm like synesthetic.
Yeah, so you were mentioning that before. You want to talk about your synesthesia?
Yeah, I didn't know that's what it was, but I would like see shapes.
Yeah.
And like shapes that would move.
You taste the color, all that. There's a crisscrossing between the sensations.
Yeah.
The senses.
I mean, it's not very pronounced, like where it's like debilitating or overstimulating, but it's definitely something like, I don't know. It's I can't really put it into words, but it interests me enough to want to explore it. To like want to expose myself to more sounds, to like taste it and like to interpret it, to define it, and under different frameworks of context. Like I could look at it like in terms of composition. I could look at it in terms of production, in terms of engineering. I could look at it in terms of texture. I could look at it in terms of like the medium it was recorded through, and all that stuff. Who was involved in it and who commissioned it? Did anyone commission it? Where did it happen? When did it happen?
Yes.
But I think a lot of it also, it's probably I don't think like I'm going to cheapen my exposure to like learning things through a narrative lens,
Yes.
Because it does kind of help. It helps you. First of all, for me, it doesn't help me explore the world, but it helps me connect with other people. Like I don't need really probably words. I don't need to use words to explore the world myself and explore nature, but I do need words to connect with other people.
Yes, you do, to communicate. To communicate the sensations you're feeling, you need words because it's a common ground.
Yeah, and my favorite insight when it comes to human communication was learning about the 5 W's. Do you know about that?
Yeah, I do, and you'll repeat again. Who, what, where, why, when.
Yeah, who, what, where, when, why. So if you're, let's say you're not a writer.
Journalism or writing, yeah, it's
like
common.
Let's say you're a person who doesn't write. You don't write by habit. You don't write by profession, but you just want to try writing. Well, what I say is pick a topic or pick a thing. First, what you got to do is you got to pick a person, an event, or an idea. One of those 3 things, and then you got to answer the 5 W's. Who, what, where, when, why. Who is it about or who's involved? When did it happen? Or when was this person born? When did this person die? When were the major events in this person's life, and etc. Where, all the details of location. Who, what, where, when, why. All that jazz. Why is the trickiest thing? Why is the most
why these things unfold as they did?
I think the why is for
involved.
I think the why is for your own opinion. Why is for you to look at all the facts that you listed and researched and been exposed to and data you managed to gather, and then you're supposed to stamp your own. Well, this is why all of this is shit, or this is why I'm researching it, or this is why this, stuff is being presented to you. But anyway. The 5 W's. If you want to write something, or if you want to write something that's of value to other people, all you got to do is just follow the tenets of the 5 W's. Who, what, where, when, and why. What? That's what I was looking for. It was the who, what did this person do? What is the event? What happened?
Yeah. Who, what, where, when, why.
I know this is going to affect you positively too. I know, because I don't did you ever have a blog ever or write an article?
I never did.
You
That's
never
something
wrote?
I was always told to do, but I never did.
Well, I would want to start a blog page for Terrorisk. It's just I have to pick the right person to do it.
I say yes.
Because I can't do it,
Yeah, I understand.
I could do some of it, but I can't do all of it.
Right.
I think a person would have fun doing it. But the only thing is, I would want to be able to pay them. So until I'm able to pay them to do it, I don't think. Unless they want to do it,
Right, I follow you.
I mean, it could also... I don't know. Maybe you should consider it because you never wrote for anything.
That's true. I haven't. I've always been told to.
And it's
always been too lazy to follow through on it. But it's all the more reason to try now as I'm getting older and life is happening all around me.
And it doesn't have to be anything like related to Terrorisk. You could just be like, my name is Carmen. I'm a member of the Terrorisk family, and this is the blog that I'm doing for Terrorisk. You know, here's the life of a person who's in the Terrorisk crew. I live in Brooklyn. I live in a trap house with a bunch of mentally deranged males and females.
Yes, that's true.
Cohabitating under the same roof, which sounds ridiculous, but it's real. Everything's fucked up, but also like very cute at the same time. You know, it's nice and charming and quaint.
Yeah.
There's a cute outdoor back area where you could grill food if you wanted to, like in holidays like the 4th of July or Memorial Day. You could throw parties in the basement. There's enough space to throw like a small concert even. I mean,
we've done it before and we should do it again.
Yeah, it might be a little bit of a stretch to say concert, but you could set up a drum kit. You could have like amps. Yeah, you could literally throw a nice good old fashioned basement show. It's a multi-story house, you know.
Yes, that's true.
So that's where you live, and you know, you work really far from your home, which kind of blows.
Which is dumb of me. It's entirely on me. I should work closer to home.
If you had a bicycle,
even then, it would still be dumb. I should just get something closer to home. That's how more.
You know what I think you should do? I think like you shouldn't stop at bicycle. I think after you learn how to ride a bicycle, because I know there's plenty of people who don't. You should go right into mopeding.
Yeah, I know you've suggested this.
Have I moped?
I think so. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe others have.
Well, I've ridden them.
I can technically drive. I have a driver's license, but I haven't driven in years.
So here's the thing. If you have a driver's license, you automatically qualify to be... You ever see Revel scooters?
Yeah.
You automatically qualify if you have a legal driver's license to be able to use one of those Revels. You just need a driver's license. You don't need like a special thing or anything. The only thing is, like, you have people who never rode a bicycle before, like, try riding these things.
Yeah,
and they actually like manage to do it. Like they figure it out somehow. You know, they're just like, oh shit, okay, and they manage. Maybe it's easier to learn how to ride like a moped. I don't know. But I've heard stories like that where it's like, I never rode a bicycle in my life or a motorcycle. I just kind of got on, and I think it's because they probably like rode scooters before. You know?
Yeah. Maintaining your balance with it, yes.
But anyway, it's just bizarre to me that a person would get on a moped before they ever learn how to ride a bicycle, which is insane to me. But
it's going much faster, yes.
But, you know, like, as long as... If you have a driver's license, I guess it makes sense. Like, if they could operate a fucking 2-ton car... I don't know how much a car weighs, actually.
5? 4? 5?
5 tons, 2 tons.
4 tons. 3? Something like that. More than that, though.
Yeah. It was actually funny. There was a meme that said how, like, you know, you got your project car and you're trying to reach top speed and you get outrun by like a middle-aged woman in like an Infiniti G30 Q35 or some shit, and it's like, some dude was like, but there's usually so many dents on the car, it's like a golf ball, so it's cheating.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny.
Really granulated as greebles or what have you on the car, like in Star Wars.
Yeah. So, but in regards to like transportation in New York City, I think a lot of people are it's gonna come back. Like bicycles are gonna make a huge comeback because of congestion pricing becoming a thing now.
Yes.
People are gonna start looking towards like alternative forms of commuting, like rollerblades, mono wheels, those insane electric mono wheels, scooters and like mopeds and shit. And yeah, they're gonna do everything they can to try to find ways to like not have to pay tolls to like, you know, get to work and shit.
Right.
For me, I work from home personally. Like, cry about it, everyone. But like people who have to like let's say they live in Jersey and they work in the city, they have to pay like $16 per trip over that bridge or something, or through the tunnel. Like, that's insane, man. Imagine like you pay $16 2 times both ways.
That is insane.
Do that 5 times a week. Dude, that's insane, man.
Yeah.
That's actually fucked up. That's fucked up, man.
$100, right? If it was 15, yeah.
It's redonkulous.
Yeah.
Insane. But I guess that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah. $75 a week. Sorry, but yes.
It's fucked. It's fucked. But, I mean, what can you do?
Yes.
Except move the fuck out of New York City, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's called congestion pricing for a reason, guys. It's getting so expensive because too many people are moving here. I think that's all fucking lie.
Yeah, I know. They're not building enough new housing.
And all the apartments
sorry.
are like super empty.
Yeah.
Like, get the fuck out of here. You expect me to believe that New York City is so congested right now that we have to pay like $75 a week to drive in.
81, I guess, if it's $16. But yes.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. What's the time we're at?
We're at an hour and 11.
Okay. I know there's long breaks in there due to me going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Or me grabbing a drink, but yes.
I mean, oh God, it's just I think the whiskey's good this time. That's why I'm not sick of this yet. You know.
What do you think of the whiskey?
I like it.
This blended scotch.
I feel good. I feel a nice buzz I feel a nice twist.
How do you find the taste?
It goes really good with the weed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice with my joint, you know. I feel fucking, I gotta say, I'm feeling pretty cool right about now.
Yeah.
I think there were a lot of clippable moments. So what I've been doing with the podcast now
is trying to do craft clippable moments.
No, not at all. They just kind of happen.
Yeah. But then in your editing, I suppose you find them.
Of course, yeah, 100%. I mean, you only need 59 seconds. 59 seconds to make one of those shorts on YouTube that just kind of repeat and loop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I was actually talking to Geneva in the last episode about it, and I was saying how the thing that trips me up is those YouTube shorts that are like designed and produced to like loop infinitely. And Luke was like, yeah, imagine like just being a stoner, just watching that 7 times in a row, and you're like, when does this end? Like,
yes.
And that's hilarious. I thought that was really funny because we all did that. Like,
yeah.
At some, maybe not 17 times, but like we've all definitely sat through one of those loop videos like at least a couple times. Just be like,
yeah.
It's so funny. Anyway, I gotta recommend a movie to you guys. It's called Gods of Egypt. It stars
Gerald Butler and the guy who played Jamie in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and what's awesome is that what's awesome is that their gods in that movie were like fucking 10 feet tall or like 20 feet tall or some shit.
And they're mecha, right? They summon armored pieces of themselves. Like
they
mecha.
Transform into like great beast-like beast-like dudes that are like shiny and metal, but they have like the heads like Anubis, like beast-like formed. You know? Yeah, it's pretty sick. It's a pretty fucking sick movie, guys. And what's funny is if you actually like look at the Book of Enoch, and for those of you who are uninitiated, the Book of Enoch was basically like
it's part of the Ethiopian Bible,
the Ethiopian Orthodox Church.
Yeah.
They
apocryphal text, the Bible, yes.
In their Bible, there's the Book of Enoch. And in this Book of Enoch, they mention how angels came down, and these angels were like most likely like the Anunnaki, honestly. Like the deities, these godlike beings that were just giant and way taller than ordinary humans. Like they came to Earth. And, you know, I guess they were just aliens that were superior beings, and they just came to like bitch us out so we could slave away for gold, or they created us. That's a real thing. It's like these beings, these Anunnaki created human beings. They bred us with their own DNA, with like monkeys, to create us to like be able to smartly mine gold for them. And what ended up happening was as we were being bred and born and bred to mine this gold, the angels, the Anunnaki, saw some of our women, us women, like human women.
Yeah,
and
women.
And they got boners for them. They were like, yo, my giant ass wants some of these little human half monkey, half us people. You know, they're kind of a little fuckable to me. I kind of want one. As let us take some wives for ourselves.
Yeah.
And you know, they found little human half monkey wives and half Anunnaki wives, and they had babies with them, and they created the Nephilim. And the Nephilim were these giants, and apparently the problem with the Nephilim is mixed
6 fingers.
And they were just retarded. Like, they were fucked up. They were mean. They were aggressive, but they were powerful. They were magical. They loved eating people, and they were just super duper OP. All right. And the thing about the Nephilim is that, like, they were causing a lot of problems. I mean, after like God, the angels, you know, God basically said to the angels, you guys are fucked up. You were not supposed to go and fuck these little creatures who mine our gold and make kids with them. Like, are you fucking dumb? And now look what you did. You created a race of these fucking insane giant people that are going around and doing insane shit because they have way too much power, but they still have monkey brains. The fuck were you guys thinking? And the angels were like, oh, but we love them, you know?
Yeah.
So God, Ra, or whatever, was like, you know what? I'm going to flood this whole shit because you guys fucked this whole thing up, this whole project, this whole good thing we had going. You guys corrupted it. So I am going to flood the shit out of it to wipe out your fucked up kids, the Nephilim. And I'm going to pick just a few of my select humans that you guys created, the innocent ones, because they don't deserve the suffering, you know? I empathize. And, yeah, so say hello to the younger Dryas, and that's when the flood happened.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the whole story. And the Nephilim, though, were supposed to be wiped out during the flood, but they were not. Some survived, and they live on to this day in the bloodline of Donald Trump, and that's why Barron Trump is like 7 feet tall.
Nice.
Yeah. So the Trump family could either maybe Donald Trump was like, I'm a billionaire. I wanna crisp a baby with some of the Nephilim DNA. I mean, if you were the president of the United States,
you would want a very tall son. Yes.
And it's like, well, sir, we're not supposed to tell you about this, but we have some Nephilim DNA we could splice, you know, using CRISPR.
Barack Obama was telling him this in the limo ride back to the White House.
Donald, you know, we
have Nephilim DNA.
We have Nephilim DNA. I mean, make no mistake.
Let me be clear.
And Donald Trump just is like, hell's yeah. Like, what billionaire
You're telling me this for the first time.
See, I knew that. I knew it. You know, I told my daughter. I told my daughter the other day. You know, they had Barry definitely has Nephilim DNA.
It's true, folks. You did Trump, probably because you were born in Queens.
No, I'm not. I don't do good impressions. I think to do a good impression.
Terrible at impressions. I wish I was good at impressions.
Well, no. Me too. But to do a good impression, I learned this is that you have to love the person you're in some level. Even if you're like impersonating them in a mocking way, you still have to love them to do it well on some level. You know.
Yeah.
Which is
You probably notice things about their speech pattern that imitate it.
That too. Also, their state of mind, I guess. My favorite thing is when like Hollywood celebrities do impersonations of other Hollywood celebrities. That's amazing. I love that shit. Some of them are so good at it, you know?
Yeah.
I think one time I saw Kevin Spacey doing Jack Nicholson.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah.
It was at an Oscars thing.
Yeah.
That was fucking dope. It was really good. And that is like probably the ultimate form. That's the only form of flattery that must matter to actors, you know?
Yeah.
Because like everything else is like, it's whatever. But a true love letter to an actor would be impersonating the real them, you know, like the actual them. And I think that's why actors like get a kick out of that so much. They love that shit, you know? This was I think this was like it was a Nick Rochefort bit.
Yes, go on.
He said that any woman who can do a Jim Carrey impersonation becomes instantly hilarious.
Interesting. I can see that.
Yeah, from like Jim Carrey or something. I mean, that's from Ace Ventura. Sorry. Yeah. Geneva loves Ace Ventura. Last time we spoke, she was like, I love
I can
it.
see that. Yeah, very fitting.
I love Ace Ventura too.
Yeah. I was thinking about taking fashion inspiration for this summer from him.
Yeah, I would be like I would be a Korean Ace Ventura.
Ooh, yes.
I would love to be a Korean Ace. Yo, Korea should make an Ace Ventura. They should make a Dr. Dolittle or something. Oh my god.
Funny comedy. Korean film is lacking in comedy Porta. Even it's not mainstream.
I mean, this could also be a romantic comedy. Like a cute Korean girl ends up being able to hear and talk to animals, and the animals are trying to push her to talk to this. Yeah. What? No.
Just really get the Korean birth rate down. Korean women, instead of eating dogs, were fucking.
No, they all do it. No, but no. No, I was thinking like all the animals would act as like the wing girl or whatever for the girl.
Yeah, because Asians need that to reproduce.
Yeah, the birth rates have been going down, and like the
especially most extremely in East Asia. Korea's the worst, though China's really bad now.
Well, what does that tell you? What does it tell you when the most high IQ people are not
reproducing? Yeah, it does say a lot, isn't it? It's very interesting. Maybe you lack the script and modernity.
I know what the problem is. The problem is high IQ people right now are locked into a materialist paradigm, and that materialist paradigm happens to make you very unfuckable and very unhappy. Or is it very unhappy and very unfuckable? I don't know. It's like a chicken or the egg thing. Like, are you unfuckable because you're unhappy, or are you happy because you're unfuckable? God knows. What I do know is they're very correlated, and it's probably both in a way. So if you could affect one more than the other, it's definitely the unhappy part first. So fix the part where you're unhappy before you fix the part where you're unfuckable. Because I guarantee you, if you fix the part where you're unfuckable, the part where you're unhappy will become a lot. No, I'm sorry. If you fix the part where you're unhappy, the part where you're unfuckable becomes a lot easier to fix.
Yeah.
I know that sounds very like contrarian, but it's not. I swear. That's what Buddha would tell you. I swear to God, Buddha.
Sure.
If Buddha was standing in this room, he would agree with me. He would be like, Chris is right. I mean, I wouldn't say it in those words, but he's out of line, but he's right. You know, like I say, if you fix you being unhappy, the women will just come to you.
Yeah.
And they might, and a lot of the times by the time they do come to you, you're gonna be like, how long has that been unplugged?
It just fell out just now. My last statement. If you fix the unhappiness, women will come to you. You were saying, go on. What?
The way you said that. Wait, say that again.
If you fix her unhappiness, the women will come to you. It's not the same delivery as I had before, I know.
Yeah, but yeah, it's true though. If you fix the unhappiness, it's not even if you're a woman too. If you fix your unhappiness, men, like quality men, will come to you.
Yeah.
As a man,
the issue is not having women at all. As a woman, the issue is not having quality men at all.
For as men, I mean, all right, that's actually fucked up because men are kind of at a disadvantage the way I see it. Like as a man, if you're unhappy, you'll get no bitches being attracted to you. But if you fix your unhappiness, and which is like fixing your
then women will come to you, and then they'll cause unhappiness because then you have a woman in your life.
Well, no, not well. That's a funny way to put it. But what I was gonna say is that like if you fix your unhappiness, fixing your unhappiness is it's not a long necessarily, but it's a gradual process. So at first you're going to be slightly less unhappy. When you're slightly less unhappy, slightly less shittier women will start to notice you.
Yes.
And then it'll take some time and then you could either make the choice to like settle there, or you could keep going, stay single for just a little bit longer, work on yourself for a little bit longer, and then you become even less unhappy. Then suddenly even less shittier women start like wanting to talk to you and wanting to get to know you and start like, but if you could also settle there if you want, but then you could also say, no, I'm not going to get locked into this. I'm not going to fully commit my energy and attention on this yet. You know? And then you just focus on yourself, and then you become even less unhappy. And you just work on yourself, to become less and less unhappy for yourself. I mean, you guys see where this is going. Like,
yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think if you just fix your unhappy first, and also if you're unhappy, even if you're unhappy, you should still be able to function. I mean,
That's
there's no
true.
reason an unhappy person, because realistically, most of your life you're going to be unhappy. You can't expect to be happy for most of your life. That would be terrible. That's like living in like constant mania. You know, like that's
Yeah.
fucked up. You don't want to live in that state. Trust me. I mean, as a person who did Molly at some point, like for like a month straight, that's just it felt like, I don't know if I did
Yes.
Molly like every week for a month. Actually, no, I did do Molly like at some point for like at least every week within a month, and like that took a lot out of me. Like multiple days in those weeks too. Like that was fucked up.
Yeah.
But yeah, like shit like that. You know, that's the kind of shit. Sorry, you look like you were gonna say something.
No, it's fine.
I'm just waiting for this joint to finish before we wrap this up. But do you have any like?
I have no closing remarks at this point.
All right. What about closing remarks about the movie Gods of Egypt?
I don't know. I haven't seen it. I just know
You
of
never
it.
saw Gods of
I
Egypt?
know of it.
Bro. Do you know about the Book of Enoch?
Yes, I do.
Good. It's a weird book. It's an
Yeah,
important
there's a
book,
whole
I
bunch
think.
of apocryphal books of the Bible that are like that are very fanciful or feel similar to other books of the Bible, but also feel very off, or they feel very much like Bronze Age or ancient mythological works.
Here's what I think. I think that all these religions have their own like mystic tradition, right?
Sure, Kabbalah among Judaism,
Rosicrucianism, Gnosticism among Christianity.
yeah,
and Sufism.
Sufism among Islam,
Yeah, so and then there's Buddhism and all the other like really.
Sadhu in Hinduism and all that. Yeah.
So yeah, this is and then and there's also like J.K. Rowlingism, which is
Yeah, it's the Gnosticism of liberal
They're
democracy. Yeah.
this fantasy world. Yeah, the liberal democracy's magic is Harry
Yeah.
Potter.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so true. Yeah, J.K. Rowling just fucked up when she was like, trans women aren't real women.
Yeah, it's a brave stand, I guess, for
But
a
it was
petty,
kinda, like, out of
a
her
very
field.
petty stance to take. Yeah, it is out of her field. She's just a normie labor voter otherwise. And yet, yeah, it's now her defining trait.
I
Oh
mean,
no, if you have kids, you're going to show them Harry Potter and they'll probably be engaged with it. But yes.
yeah, fucking muggles.
Yeah.
So this goes back. I pointed this out, how every religion has their own mysticism. You know, their own.
Yes.
Like the major religions have their own mysticism. So what I'll say is this, like, you know, like it's also poignant with Harry Potter and how they call like non-magic users muggles, the uninitiated. You know, the unmagic
Yes.
magified people. So the Jews call the non-initiates Gentiles.
Yes.
Like these are people, like our source of magic is our God. You know, that's
Yeah.
what like Kabbalah says.
Yeah.
Like his source is, you know, the source as we know it and whatever. Christians, they're Rosicrucians, and the Rosicrucians and the Gnostics. They say-
Gnostics is the OG and the one that influences all the later groups.
Gnostics. The Gnostics say the same shit. The Gnostics say like, yo, our God is the source. You know, like this, our magic, the source of our magic is God. You know, God, our
Yeah.
God as we know it is. What do you think the Muslims say? Like, I guarantee you, it's something pretty similar, and it is.
Well, yeah,
Like,
they're very
Sufis-
form. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is that it all works the same way for a reason, and they all follow
Yeah.
the same paradigm. And what they're all saying is that like there's the surface bullshit religion, which deals with the politics and the mythology and the stories and all that shit. But then there's
Theology,
a practice. Then there's the practices, because hidden within the theology is the practice. And once you practice, that is when you start tapping into the magic. I mean, it's one thing to just be a theologist. It's one thing to just consume all the
Yeah.
shit intellectually, to read the stories, to read the myths, even across multiple disciplines and multiple
Yeah.
like religions. Like you could read all of that shit and take it all in intellectually. But until you practice these things, practice the traditions, practice like live out the way these things, these scriptures tell you to, you are not going to feel that magic. You're not going to feel that divine blessing. You're not going to feel that. The reason
Yeah.
why addicts get like spiritual awakenings is because they get into rehab where
Yes.
where they're literally forced to fast on everything that was overstimulating, like drugs, sex, and all this shit. Like when they're stuck in like rehab, they're forced to fast, and once they fast, they see God. You know, that's why if you look at the 12-step program, it's literally a fucking like manuscript for like a kind of a secular spiritual awakening. You know?
Yes.
And yeah, so it's all magical. You know,
It's all magical. It's all connected. Similar traditions and trends.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, how do you define magic? You know, like magic.
Yeah.
is using your conscious will to
affect reality. Yeah, that's the something fortune guy, right?
I don't know. Or there's plenty of other
Don Fortune, maybe.
there's that one guy that said magic is any sufficiently advanced technology.
Arthur C. Clarke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is basically saying the same fucking thing. I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
either way, you're talking about creation. You're talking about the creation
Yeah.
of a being. And that creation is the divine aspect, is the fact that it was created. By what? By an alien? Okay, who created the alien?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you gotta like, like it's
The
eventually,
first mover, yeah.
it eventually gets to an absolute, you know?
Yeah.
But because of that, that's when you say, it's like, okay, that's when we're all connected. That's where you start to feel good about it. Like when you realize, yes, if everything's created, that means we're all connected intrinsically.
Yes.
If everything is creation, that means because creation doesn't just like happen like static balls floating in a void. No, it happens like branches. It happens like roots and ripples. It's all interconnected like a web.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, once you truly start viewing things from a metaphysical perspective, you start feeling that connectedness with every single human being. I mean, one of the most like, I think powerful things I repeat all the time, which is why I repeat it, is I say everyone is just like ultimately the same soul living out different lifetimes in different bodies, you know?
Yes.
In that way.
Samsara, wheel of reincarnation.
And people, that could be a very scary perspective to hold at first. But once you get used to it, like everything gets better. Everything gets way better.
Yes.
People have told me this. You know, they were like, you know, at first it's like there's like a knee-jerk reaction to that concept, you know, where everyone's the same soul living out different lifetimes in different bodies. There's like a knee-jerk reaction where it's your ego. It's your ego getting wounded
Within the West, I suppose. Maybe I don't know enough about the East, where reincarnation is more deeply culturally ingrained.
But I'm East by flesh. I'm like cerebrally.
Racially, yeah, cerebrally, yeah.
Definitely by Western all the way. It's just this is where I could kind of feel it. You know, I could feel the contrast.
The contrast and that influence upon you, yeah.
Yeah, and
I didn't break that double rocks glass when I hit it with this microphone.
Hells yeah, we're back.
Yeah.
What were we just talking about?
Mystical traditions and different faiths, reincarnation.
Okay, so the people that I truly feel bad for are right now
Yes.
are the right wing Jesus freaks, because they're so close, in my opinion, to a true spiritual awakening, but they got tangled up in the web of dogma.
Yeah.
Because the right wing and the Bible have a very, very toxic relationship.
Go on.
I believe that the Bible is as we know it, is kind of like incomplete. And it causes, well, it's not actually, no, that's a wrong word. It's not that it's incomplete. It's complete as it is, I guess. You know, it's just, it locks you in. It locks you into a very specific framework of engaging with metaphysical
reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's good in its values. It's just it's good to like see. My favorite concept is like, if you want to be a Christian, that's great, but also look at the Jewish theology, and you know, like look at like the Muslim theology, look at all
the
of
other
it.
Abrahamic religions in particular, but also the Dharmic religions,
the Vedic traditions and all that shit.
Yeah.
Look at all of it, I'd say, and see. My thing is, where do they all connect? Like what? I mean, people want to call it like, oh, they want to say perennialism is dumb. I don't think perennialism is dumb. You know, like,
yeah.
I think it's worth cross-referencing and like seeing where, you know, they all kind of agree. I think those are the most valuable points, if anything. Like,
yeah.
So, and we have the internet to be able to do this. This is probably what we should be using the internet for at this point. But yeah, I think it's a shame to be locked into one cultural doctrine or one, you know, dogmatic structure. It's better to be able to look at all of them, and I you know, I'm not saying denounce any of them, just kind of fucking figure out the common threads in all of them. You know, like if there's something that's valuable enough where all of them can agree,
Yeah.
it's probably good. And like the problem is, like, a lot of them, like, they all agree with like some pretty harsh ones. Like I'm pretty sure the Jews, Christians, and Muslims are all against like gays.
Yeah.
Of course, the Vedic traditions don't give a fuck, not like the Buddhists.
Well, they have, like, it's all slotted into certain situations where it's allowed. And it's a very socially constraining regardless.
That's true.
It's like, maybe it's allowed, but under certain very particular circumstances. Certainly what's allowed within the West today, or even in East Asian countries under the influence of the liberal West, is way more encompassing and open than what traditionally existed under those religious traditions.
I don't think spirituality can be institutionalized properly. I don't think it should be something that should be institutionalized. It should be something as natural as, like, you're taught to eat. Like, does anyone really have to, like, teach you to want to take a shit or take a piss or eat food or something? It should be something that,
as natural as that. Interesting. A bodily reaction, a bodily need.
yeah. I don't think it should be seen as something that should be institutionalized or something. It should be something that we should.
There's a lot of people walking around with the equivalent of a massive shit, and they're also starving to death because they can't just treat spirituality as a natural function.
Yeah. That's how I view it. You know, it's like, I just don't want it to be like institutionalized anymore.
Yeah.
Because, you know me, like, I'm a psychopath, I guess, like that, where it's like, if I don't think any one person should be excluded from having a gun, I think we should give guns to everyone, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like everyone should just be on equal footing when it comes to just naturally, like, being able to be aware of this. I mean, they call it the occult because it's hidden, supposedly.
But you want everyone to have an occult AK-47.
Yeah.
An AR-15.
Yeah, or a nuke.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want anyone to really destroy reality, though. That would suck.
No, of course, but you want them to have the spiritual tools to do so and then refrain from using them as such.
Or the spiritual tools to realize nothing, not a single thing can fully destroy your reality. Even if your body gets destroyed, nothing's going to truly destroy your true reality. You know, as a spiritual being having a human experience, you know? You're not truly your body. You're not truly your thoughts. You're actually this eternal soul being.
Yes.
If God is an ocean, we are like water droplets.
Swimming in it. Yeah, cells in God's body.
Yep. The focal point of the universe experiencing itself.
Yeah.
It's all good
Playing
stuff.
out, yes.
Yeah. This is why I think words can be used for good, because they all just point to something that feels natural. You know, it doesn't feel like something that just invades your senses in a bad way. This is something that invades your senses, but in like a very not even in a good way. It's more like a balanced way. You know?
Yes.
Which is what I tend to believe in, and it also kind of like helps me. It helps me also do right by people in every situation.
Right.
You know, because if I view everyone as like a different version of myself,
yes,
I think that's like that sets things up to have better outcomes when it comes to like interpersonal relations. You know.
Yes.
Conversations tend to go way better that way. I mean,
the way of interacting with others and with the world.
Yeah, like every time I interact with someone as if they were like a separate being, completely divorced being from myself, it never goes good. Ever. It always feels very alienating. It always feels like, oh, get me the fuck out of here. Yeah. But when I start viewing that person as like another version of me, the conversation always goes way better. I always see that spark in their eyes where I just say something like seemingly off the chain, but then they realize, like, oh yeah, you know what? You're now that you mention it, you know, like. And I think that I enable those moments because I view them as other versions of myself, you know?
Yeah.
And I can only do that from a spiritual perspective. Like, I can only do that because I think of them as, like, both of us as spiritual beings having a human experience. And we both come from the same, like, ocean, you know?
Same paired experience, yes.
We're going back to the same place, you know? Like, to become the same thing, you know?
Yeah.
So, in that sense, it's like, what's, you know, at this point, you're only just hiding shit just to make others more comfortable. You know, like you don't necessarily feel shame about it because you're just like, it is what it is. Because everyone's got their own shit. Everyone's a different version of you.
Yeah.
To varying degrees, of course, but still, you know, it's like, it's just, it is what it is. After this life, this body's going to die. Everything this body did is going to die. Everything that happened is going to die, and it's going to be forgotten. In that sense, it is meaningless, but that doesn't, I still believe in, like, I guess,
a purpose to it, yes.
Righteousness too, you know? Just because it's meaningless doesn't mean it's meaningless.
Agreed. Anyway.
Yeah, anyway. Quit porn, guys. I'm about finished with this joint, and once I'm finished, that's it for the night. But seriously, while I have you on the mic, I say, quit porn. Stop, like, just don't orgasm while looking at porn.
Stop jerking off to pornography.
You could look at porn in like educationally. You could look at porn with friends. You could look at porn in public. I don't care. Just don't orgasm while looking at porn, please. At least just don't do that. Like, just don't fucking do that. Like, don't sit there in private looking at porn.
Jerk off to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, don't do that. Don't simulate sex as if it's not. Just don't do that. I mean, it's just terrible. I'm not going to say be afraid of porn. Just don't fucking like use it that way. You know, like, it's not good. It's not good for you. It's bad. I mean, if anything, porn should be like, it is without a doubt like one of the most interesting facets of anthropology. Like, I bet they have a field day with that shit.
They probably don't, because anthropology is such a broken field.
Oh, well.
They really should investigate it. It'd be fascinating to investigate masturbatory behaviors in societies around the world.
Maybe they've already been ahead of the game. Like, yeah, they've definitely been ahead of that curve for like since probably like the early 20th century.
Yeah, they did, and then I think they probably abandoned it because anthropology has gone way downhill since.
Really?
The 50s.
What is anthropology like now?
Is
it political?
Yeah,
social politics.
It's super liberal political. Yes.
Yeah. That makes sense.
It's a lot of coming up with ways to claim that some tribe that has a lady boy category is trans inclusive, while the West.
Well,
is
yeah,
not.
I feel like your typical anthropologist would be trans exclusive. They would probably donate to some like LGBTQ, like, you know, charities. I bet.
And a lot of noble savage stuff, and a lot of very, very particular, minute focused stuff. They're very disinterested in field work, and they make an argument that it's racist to do field work.
That's what I want to be, a noble savage. I want women to look at me and like, that's a noble savage.
Same. Unfortunately, yeah, it's just a totally dead field currently. Perhaps it could be revived.
I don't want to be a noble savage. Savage. Noble cabbage. I want to be a novel cat. I want to be a noble savage. No, I just want to be a Renaissance man. That's what I want, because the life of a Renaissance man sounds fun. Sounds like you get a mixture of activities.
Yeah.
You know? But it's just, the thing is, it's not that I shun, like, you know, traditional lifestyles or anything. It's just, I know I'm gonna die one day.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not going to be 32 forever. I know I'm not going to be 33
I think
forever.
about that a lot. Being 34, soon to be 35.
And then that really made me sit there and think, like, okay, knowing I'm going to die one day, what do I truly want to do? And I looked at what do I actually do out of all this shit? And I did a lot of shit. Like, I did, like, I don't know, antisocial things. But then I also did martial arts. I did, like, I had like really bad like substance tendencies sometimes. Like, I would go really too far, but then at the same time, like, I made music, you know, so it's like I had to pick and choose between all the shit I routinely did. And it's like, do I have the courage, and did I have the courage and strength to like just snip away at least a couple here and there, you know?
Yeah.
And it turns out, like, the more you snip away, like, the more resource, like,
more growth, more personal energy, more.
We call it mana, right?
Yeah,
it's mana.
Spiritual
mojo.
energy.
It's your
spiritual
mojo.
Energy.
Yeah, it's your mojo, your spiritual energy. It's real, like chi.
Yeah,
and I'm not talking about like this anime sense where you could use, like, you could move like cups with psychic energy. No, I mean, like, just literally, like, you ever, like, all right, we were saying this in the last episode. I was like, isn't it funny how physically you could like be outside exerting yourself, raking leaves in
Yeah.
the sun, but you feel great. Meanwhile, you could be completely seated, not doing anything, out of sitting in an office, just doing
Cool, air conditioned, and you feel like shit.
you feel exhausted.
Yeah.
You feel mentally drained.
Being physically
And you
engaged,
can't
that really
do
does
anything.
a lot.
Yeah. Isn't that fucking crazy?
Yeah.
What does that tell you? That tells you energy has not like personal energy, personal use energy, that your mojo, your willpower, your spiritual energy, it's not physical.
Yeah.
It's something else entirely. It's like a blend of like physical, emotional, and mental.
Exertion giving you energy. Yes.
So that's something that I think is good to talk about like all the time.
Yeah.
Is like literally just consider that, guys. Like your fucking energy, your energy is super duper important. I think so.
I agree. I don't utilize mine enough. Utilize
think about it this
enough.
way. Like I used to be naive. I mean, I'm still naive, but I used to be so naive that I thought time was the most valuable thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think time is incredibly valuable, but
Yes.
I think more important than time is energy, because you could have all the time in the world. Like you could afford yourself all this time, but if you don't have the energy, like if you're in such a shitty mindset where you literally feel so depressed and you have all the time to do anything you want, but you don't have any motivation, you're gonna waste away. You know, you're just gonna become just like a piece of shit, just like a bum. No different, except maybe you'll be slightly more comfortable. But like, it's still like you're not gonna be stimulated. You're gonna wither away, just the same. And it's something that you have to like cultivate, and it's not something that can just be done through like taking pills or anything like that, overeating, or anything, or making more money, or like getting more friends on social media. Like, I don't know. I don't think that's gonna do it.
Yeah, something spiritual, something personal
Yeah.
that leads to that fulfillment.
Yeah. With that, anyway.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, we're about ready to close it up. Thank you guys for joining us, and I hope you guys have a good night.